The stars hung like distant lanterns in the viewport as Captain Alan Foster stood watch on the bridge of the Whisper. His ship drifted silently through the void, engines running at minimal power. Nothing about the Whisper would catch anyone's attention. That was the point. For 3,000 years, that had been humanity's only rule. Don't get noticed. Alan checked the stealth systems again. Perfect readings across the board. The Whisper wasn't just quiet, it was practically a ghost. Its hull absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Its heat signature matched the cold background of space. Even its communications were designed to look like random cosmic noise to anyone who might be listening. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up movement. In Sector 7, said Rebecca Martinez, his first officer. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, bringing up a holographic display between them. Alan leaned forward. The display showed 12 large ships moving in perfect formation. Their design was unmistakable angular, predatory, with forward sections that resembled talons, Imperial ships. Zephyrian Imperial ships. They're not supposed to be in this sector, Alan said quietly. Plot their course. Rebecca worked silently for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was tight. Sir, they're headed directly for Tau Ceti, directly for New Haven. Alan felt his heart skip a beat. New Haven was one of humanity's largest hidden colonies. Over 30,000 people live there, including his sister and her family. Could be a coincidence, he said, not believing it himself. They're moving too deliberately, sir. This isn't a patrol or a trade route. Rebecca looked up at him, her dark eyes serious. They know something. Alan pressed a button on his chair. Bridge to engineering. Sam, I need everything you can give. Me without breaking stealth. We need to reach New Haven before those Imperial ships. 3,000 light-years away, on the surface of New Haven, Administrator Ellie Winters watched her son graduate. The ceremony was being held in an underground amphitheater, like most important human gatherings these days. The Guardian Academies. 50 newest graduates stood in neat rows, their gray uniforms crisp in the soft light. Noah Winters was in the front row, standing tall and proud. At 19, he was the youngest graduate in his class. Ellie felt a swell of pride as the Academy director placed the silver pin on Noah's collar, marking him as a fully trained guardian of humanity. Next to Ellie sat her husband Daniel. He squeezed her hand as Noah received his pin. He's going to request a ship assignment, Daniel whispered. He told me last night. Ellie nodded. She had expected this. Noah had always wanted to see more than just New Haven. He wanted to be like the stealth ship captains from the stories, silently watching the Empire from the shadows. After the ceremony, families gathered in the large open area behind the Academy. The space was designed to look like an outdoor park, with artificial sunlight streaming from panels in the high ceiling, and real trees growing from soil brought from other colony worlds. "Mom, Dad," Noah called, jogging over to them. His face was flushed with excitement. "I got my assignment already. The Pathfinder leaves next week." Ellie hugged her son tightly. The Pathfinder was a mid-sized scout vessel, perfect for a new guardian to learn the realities of space. "We're so proud of you." Daniel clapped Noah on the shoulder. "Just remember everything you've learned. Stay quiet, stay hidden." "I know." "Dad," Noah said, rolling his eyes slightly. 3,000 years of silence, and not one of us has broken it yet. As they walked toward their home in the residential sector, they passed the History Museum. Through its wide windows, Ellie could see the central display, a scale model of Earth as it had looked before the collapse. Next to it stood holograms showing the Great Exodus, when humanity had abandoned their dying world. That was when they had first encountered the Zephyrian Empire. Humans had been lucky their first contact team had observed the Empire destroying another young civilization that had refused to submit. That single observation had shaped all human policy since. Rather than announce themselves to the galaxy, humanity had disappeared. They built their colonies in unremarkable star systems. They developed technology focused on stealth rather than weaponry. They watched and learned and never, ever revealed themselves. "Commander Harper wants to see you," Daniel said as they reached their home. "Something about the new deep space monitoring stations." Ellie nodded. "I'll go now." "Noah, dinner at our place tonight? We can celebrate properly." "Wouldn't miss it," Noah grinned. The command center was 5 levels below the surface. Commander Susan Harper was waiting when Ellie arrived, her face grim. "We've detected an Imperial fleet," Susan said without preamble. "They're on a direct course for New Haven. No deviation, no stopping at any other systems." Ellie felt her blood run cold. "That's not possible." "We've been careful. Our stealth systems are still working perfectly," Susan finished. "Which means they're not following our technology. Someone told them we're here." "How long do we have?" 3 days, maybe 4. They're moving fast." Ellie closed her eyes briefly. 3,000 years of hiding, and now this. "Alert the other colonies. Activate emergency protocols. Get the shelters ready. There's more," Susan said quietly. "We intercepted some of their communications. They're not coming to destroy us." "Then what do they want?" Susan's face hardened. "They're coming for our children. All of them. Something about an Imperial education program." Ellie thought of Noah, of his excitement about his new assignment, of all the children in the colony's schools, of 3,000 years of careful silence about to be broken. "Not while I'm administrator," she said. "Prepare the colony for evacuation. And Susan, wake up the defenses. All of them." As Ellie left the command center, klaxons began to sound throughout the colony. The sound humanity had hoped never to hear. The silence was over. The Imperial ships entered New Haven's atmosphere at dawn 3 days later. They descended through the clouds like massive birds of prey, their hulls gleaming in the morning light. 7 ships in total, each one larger than the biggest building. In the colony, Jack Peters watched them from the window of his classroom. His students, 20 children between the ages of 8 and 10, huddled behind him in frightened silence. "Remember what we practiced," Jack said calmly, though his heart was racing. "Quiet as mice. Follow me to the special place." He led the children through the back door of the classroom, down a narrow hallway, and into what looked like a storage closet. Jack pressed his hand against a hidden panel, and the back wall slid open to reveal a tunnel. One by one, the children filed in. His wife Linda was already there, setting up emergency lights along the tunnel walls. She worked for the colony's communications center and had been among the first to learn about the Imperial fleet. "The other teachers?" she asked quietly. "Getting their groups to the shelters," Jack replied. "Is it ready?" Linda nodded. In her hand was a small device, something the colony had prepared long ago, but never expected to use. A distress beacon, designed to broadcast on old Earth frequencies that the Empire wouldn't monitor. "It's our best hope," she said. "The other colonies need to know what's happening." Above ground, Administrator Ellie Winters stood in the colony's main plaza. Beside her was Commander Susan Harper and a small group of colony officials. They watched as a shuttle detached from the largest Imperial ship and descended toward them. "Remember," Ellie said quietly, "we're a simple mining colony. We know nothing about Earth or the other colonies." The shuttle landed with a soft hiss. Its door opened, and out stepped a tall figure in gleaming armor. The Imperial officer was nearly 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow from within. Behind him came 6 soldiers, each carrying weapons unlike anything the humans had seen before. I am Sub-Commander Vexler of the Zephyrian Imperial Expansion Force, the officer announced. His voice was surprisingly melodic, with perfect English pronunciation. This settlement is now under Imperial protection. Ellie stepped forward. I am Administrator Winters. We are a simple mining colony. We want no trouble. The Imperial officer's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. No trouble will come to those who comply. The Archon has decreed that all developing species shall contribute to the Empire's future. We require your offspring for the Imperial education program. Ellie felt her blood turn to ice. Our children? All viable young between the ages of 5 and 20, Vexler confirmed. They will be taught, trained, and given positions of honor within the Empire. Their futures will be glorious. And if we refuse? Commander Harper asked. The Imperial officer's expression didn't change. Refusal is not an option. The alternative is planetary sterilization. We would prefer not to waste potential resources. In the underground command center, Daniel Winters worked frantically at a communications terminal. The colony's defense systems were minimal, designed more for concealment than confrontation. But there were options if he could just reach the hidden military installation beneath the northern mountains. Noah burst into the room. Dad, they're taking everyone from the academy. They're loading them onto transports. Daniel looked up sharply. Where's your mother? In the plaza, talking to them. Dad, what do we do? We've never trained for actual fighting. Daniel's hands stilled on the keyboard. We were never supposed to fight, Noah. That was the whole point of staying hidden. But your mother and I, we always feared this day might come. He pressed a final key, and a hidden panel in the wall slid open. Inside was a small arsenal of weapons. Not the primitive mining tools the colony officially possessed, but advanced energy weapons developed in secret. Get as many guardians as you can find, Daniel said, handing a weapon to his son. Take them to the east tunnel entrance. Wait for my signal. Noah stared at the weapon in his hands. What's the signal? Daniel's expression was grim. You'll know it when you see it. In the residential sector, Imperial soldiers moved from house to house. They were methodical, checking names against databases, separating families. Children were guided firmly, but not roughly toward waiting transports. Please, a woman begged, clutching her daughter's hand. She's only 6. She needs me. The Imperial soldier's expression remained neutral. The Empire will provide all necessities. She will be well cared for. Across the colony, the scene repeated itself hundreds of times. Parents pleading, children crying. Imperial soldiers unmoved. In the hidden tunnel, Jack Peters heard the commotion above. The children with him huddled closer together, some crying. Silently, Linda activated the distress beacon. It would broadcast continuously on a frequency humans hadn't used in generations. A message to anyone who might be listening. The silence is broken. New Haven has fallen. They are taking our children. On the bridge of the Whisper, Captain Alan Foster received the signal. His ship was still 2 hours from New Haven, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. Message from New Haven, Rebecca said, her voice tight. Emergency broadcast. They say Imperial forces are. They're taking the children, Helen. Alan's hands gripped the edge of his console. Send the alert to all human outposts. Priority level 1. Authorization, Foster Alpha 79. Rebecca looked up, her eyes wide. That's the extinction level response code. Yes, Alan said quietly. For 3,000 years, we've hidden. In the shadows. We've watched the Empire destroy worlds and enslave species. We've done nothing because we weren't ready to fight them. He looked at the distress signal, still blinking on his screen. But they've crossed the line. No one takes our children. In the plaza of New Haven, Ellie Winters watched as the first transport full of children lifted off. Through the viewport, she could see Noah among them, his face pressed against the glass, eyes locked with hers until the ship disappeared into the clouds. Sub-Commander Vexler stood beside her. "You have been most cooperative, Administrator. The Empire acknowledges your wisdom." Ellie's voice was ice. "You should have killed us all." The Imperial officer looked puzzled. "Why would we do that?" "Because," Ellie said, "now we have nothing left to lose." Admiral William Cole stood in the command center of Bastion, humanity's secret military headquarters, hidden beneath the ice of Europa, a moon of Jupiter. For his entire 60-year career, he had trained for this moment while hoping it would never come. The emergency signal from New Haven blinked on every screen in the room. Around him, officers worked at their stations with the calm efficiency that came from decades of drills. "Sir, we're receiving confirmation signals from all outposts," said his second-in-command, Lavra West. "Everyone has received the alert," William nodded. "Activate Protocol Broken Shield. Authorization Col Omega 36. Laura's fingers flew across her console. "Protocol Broken Shield is now active, sir." Throughout human space, a change began. On distant moons and hidden asteroids, massive hangar doors slid open for the first time in centuries. In nebula clouds where sensors couldn't penetrate, ships that had drifted dormant for generations came to life. Deep beneath the surfaces of unremarkable planets, missile silos powered up. For 3,000 years, humanity had not been merely hiding. They had been preparing. William opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Admiral Cole. The Empire has attacked a New Haven colony and taken our children. The time for silence is over. Execute your orders." On the Imperial processing ship, Noah Winters sat with hundreds of other young people from New Haven. They were in a large holding area with benches along the walls. Imperial guards stood at the doors, their weapons ready but not pointed at the prisoners. Beside Noah sat Grace Phillips, a fellow Guardian Academy graduate. She leaned close to whisper in his ear. "I counted 4 guards, 2 exits," she said. "The ventilation shafts are too small for us to fit through." Noah nodded slightly. "Any idea where they're taking us?" "I overheard them talking about something called the Central Education Facility," Grace replied. "Sounds like a nice name for a prison." A door at the far end of the room slid open. A human woman entered, surprising everyone. She was older, perhaps in her 50s, and wore clothing similar to Imperial staff uniforms, but not exactly the same. She walked directly to the center of the room. "My name is Dr. Olivia Parker," she said. Her voice was calm and carried across the room without shouting. "I know you're frightened. I know you have questions. I'm here to help you understand what's happening." Noah stood up. "You work for them? You're a traitor to humanity." Dr. Parker's expression didn't change. "I was taken from a human colony 30 years ago, just like you. I've been living among the Zephyrians ever since. I'm not what you think I am." She moved closer to Noah and Grace, lowering her voice. "The Empire doesn't know everything about humanity. They think they found New Haven by accident. They don't know about our other colonies, our military installations, or our real capabilities." Noah stared at her. "How do we know we can trust you?" Dr. Parker smiled slightly. "Because in about 10 minutes, this ship is going to experience a complete power failure. When it does, I need you and the other Guardians to help me get everyone to the escape pods." Back on New Haven, Daniel Winters led a group of colony defenders through the underground tunnels. They moved silently, using hand signals to communicate. Each person carried one of the advanced weapons from the hidden arsenal. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3 directions. Daniel pointed to the left tunnel, and half the group went that way. He led the rest toward the right tunnel, which would take them to the colony's main power plant. The Imperial forces had taken control of all the colony's official facilities. What they didn't know was that New Haven had been built with hidden systems and secret chambers throughout its structure. Daniel's group reached the power plant without being detected. Imperial guards patrolled the main floor, but none of them noticed the small panel that slid open in the wall near the floor. Daniel slipped through the opening, followed by the others. They crawled through a maintenance shaft until they reached a hidden control room. Daniel went to the main console and began typing commands. "What exactly are we doing?" asked one of the defenders. "Sending a message," Daniel replied, "and making sure the Empire regrets ever coming here." In orbit around New Haven, Captain Alan Foster's ship, the Whisper, approached the Imperial fleet. For the first time in its service, the Whisper's stealth systems were powered down completely. The ship's true nature was revealed. Not the small scout vessel it appeared to be, but a heavily armed warship with weapons that had never been used in actual combat. "All weapons systems online," Rebecca reported. "Target locked on the main Imperial vessel." Alan took a deep breath. "Hold fire until the signal." "Signal from where?" Rebecca asked. "From everywhere," Alan replied. At that moment, across the galaxy, humanity revealed itself. Ships appeared as if from nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating simultaneously. Military bases hidden for millennia sent out powerful signals. Communication networks that had been silent burst into activity. On the bridge of his flagship, Imperial Archon Catevax received urgent reports from every sector of his empire. "Unknown vessels appearing in all sectors, Excellency," reported his chief military advisor. "They're using technology we've never seen before. They appear to be human." Catevax frowned. "How many?" "Thousands, Excellency. Possibly tens of thousands. They've surrounded our major outposts and are blockading our supply routes." The Archon stood from his command chair. "Impossible. We've mapped the entire galaxy. We would have found a civilization that large. They were hiding, Excellency. And now they're not." On New Haven, the colony's hidden defense systems activated all at once. Energy shields previously disguised as normal buildings revealed their true purpose. Weapon emplacements rose from beneath public parks and plazas. In the plaza where she still stood with Sub-Commander Vexler, Ellie Winters watched as the colony transformed around them. The Imperial officer's eyes widened in surprise. "What is happening?" he demanded. Ellie's smile was cold. For 3,000 years, humanity stayed silent. "You should have let us keep our silence." In space above them, the battle for New Haven began. The lights on the Imperial processing ship flickered and died, just as Dr. Parker had predicted. Emergency lighting came on, casting the holding area in a dim red glow. The Imperial guards looked around in confusion, their communications devices suddenly useless. "Now," Dr. Parker said to Noah and Grace, "get everyone moving. The escape pods are 2 levels down." Noah stood and raised his voice. "Everyone from Guardian Academy form teams of 5. Each team takes responsibility for 10 younger children. Move quickly, but stay calm." The young people responded with practiced efficiency. The Academy had trained them for emergency situations, though none had expected to use that training against an alien empire. When the first guard moved to stop them, Grace was ready. She stepped forward and, using techniques taught at the Academy, quickly disarmed him. The other guards found themselves similarly overwhelmed by trained guardians. Dr. Parker led them through the corridors of the ship. "The Empire doesn't know how much we've learned about their technology," she explained as they moved. "I've been studying their ships for decades. I know every weakness." They reached a junction where the corridor split. Ahead, they could hear Imperial soldiers approaching. "This way," Dr. Parker said, pointing to a maintenance access panel. She pressed a sequence on the wall panel, and it slid open. The Empire never expects anyone to know their access codes. As they filed through the opening, Noah asked, How many humans are there like you, living among them? Dr. Parker's expression was serious. Hundreds, maybe thousands. We've been placing ourselves in key positions for generations, waiting for. This day, on the bridge of his ship, Captain Frank Miller watched as his strike team reported in. Team 1 in position at the processing ship's main docking bay. Team 2 securing the engineering section. Frank checked his weapons one last time. Begin Phase 2. Remember, our priority is the children. No unnecessary risks. His teams moved through the Imperial vessel like ghosts. They carried weapons that emitted focused electromagnetic pulses, disabling Imperial technology without harming organic life. The Imperial soldiers found their weapons and armor suddenly useless, while the human strike teams remained fully operational. Frank led the main assault team toward the ship's bridge. They encountered surprisingly little resistance, not because the Imperial forces weren't trying to stop them, but because their technology was failing in ways they had never experienced before. The Empire relies too much on their tech, Frank said to his team. They never considered someone might have spent thousands of years figuring out how to disable it. On New Haven's surface, Imperial ground forces were experiencing similar problems. Their vehicles stopped working. Their communications went silent. Their weapons lost power. Daniel Winters and his resistance fighters moved through the colony, liberating buildings one by one. They didn't need to fire their weapons. Often most Imperial soldiers surrendered when they realized how completely their technology had failed them. In the main communications center, Linda Peters broadcast updates to the colony residents still in hiding. Imperial forces are retreating from sectors 3 through 7, she reported. All residents should remain in shelter until the all-clear signal. Jack Peters and his group of hidden children listened to Linda's voice on a small radio. Children had been brave through the long hours in the tunnel, but now they began to hope. Does this mean we can go home soon? Asked a small boy. Jack smiled gently. Soon, very soon. In orbit, the battle had become one-sided. The Imperial ships, designed to dominate through superior technology, found themselves facing an enemy who knew all their weaknesses. Human ships moved with impossible speed, appearing and disappearing from Imperial sensors. On the Whisper, Captain Alan Foster received reports from across the system. Sir, Admiral Cole reports that Ghost Fleet units have secured 70% of Imperial territory in this sector, Rebecca said. They're meeting minimal resistance. Alan nodded. What about the children? Captain Miller reports success. They've secured the processing ship and are evacuating all captives to safety. For the first time in days, Alan allowed himself to relax slightly. Tell Miller to bring them home. On the Imperial capital world, Archon Katevax stood in his war room, surrounded by tactical displays, showing a disaster unfolding across his empire. One by one, the displays were going dark as human forces disabled Imperial communication networks. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors. They were nothing a minor species on a single world. His chief scientist looked troubled. It appears they have been studying us for thousands of years, Excellency. They know our technology intimately. They know our tactics, our protocols, even our emergency response patterns. And we know nothing about them, the Archon realized. Nothing except what they wanted us to know. In the escape pod bay of the processing ship, Noah helped load the younger children into the pods. Each pod could hold 12 people and would automatically navigate to New Haven's surface. Dr. Parker approached him with a data pad. Take this, she said. It contains everything I've learned about the Empire, their weaknesses, their fears. Most importantly, it has the location of other human captives taken before you. Noah looked at her in surprise. You're not coming with. You? She shook her head. My place is here. There are others like me throughout the Empire. We need to coordinate our efforts. On the surface of New Haven, Ellie Winters watched as Imperial soldiers were rounded up and placed in temporary holding areas. Sub-Commander Vexler stood before her, his armor disabled, looking much less impressive than he had hours earlier. "You lied to us," he said. "You presented yourselves as a simple mining colony." Ellie's expression was cold. "And you presented yourselves as protectors. We both deceived each other." The sub-commander seemed genuinely confused. Why hide for so long? The Empire would have welcomed your technology, your knowledge. "We saw what you did to others who refused to submit," Ellie replied. "We saw what happened to their children. So we made a choice to wait, to watch, to prepare. For 3,000 years, we learned everything about you while you knew nothing about us." She looked up as the first escape pods began streaking through the atmosphere, returning from the processing ship. "And now you've learned the most important thing about humans. We will do anything to protect our children." As night fell on New Haven, the people emerged from hiding. The Imperial forces had been contained. The children were coming home. And across the galaxy, humanity's hidden strength was revealing itself at last. 1 week after the attack on New Haven, Admiral William Cole stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Defender. Before him was a holographic display showing the current state of human space. Green markers indicated liberated colonies and outposts. Blue markers showed the positions of the Ghost Fleet. Red markers highlighted remaining Imperial strongholds. There were very few red markers left. "We've received a message from the Imperial capital," Lavra West reported. "The Archon wishes to speak with our leadership." William nodded. "Put him through." The holographic display changed to show Archon Catevax. The Imperial leader looked tired, his usual confidence replaced with wary respect. "Admiral Cole," the Archon began, "I propose an immediate cessation of hostilities between our peoples." William's expression remained neutral. "You attacked one of our colonies. You took our children." "A regrettable misunderstanding," the Archon said. "Had we known the true extent of human civilization, we would have approached with proper diplomatic protocols." "You mean had you known we could fight back, you would have treated us differently," William replied. "That is not the basis for peace." The Archon's expression hardened slightly. "What are your terms, Admiral?" William leaned forward. "Return every human child and adult taken by the Empire, not just from New Haven, but from any human settlement you've discovered over the centuries. Recognize the human-protected territories as sovereign and independent, and agree to formal diplomatic relations based on mutual respect." The Archon was quiet for a moment. "The Empire agrees to these terms." After the transmission ended, Lavra looked at William. "Do you think they'll honor the agreement?" William smiled slightly. "They don't have much choice. Dr. Parker and our other operatives have provided us with enough information to keep the Empire in check for generations. They know that now." On New Haven, the work of rebuilding had begun. Imperial technology left. Behind was being studied and adapted. The colony's hidden defenses remained active, no longer concealed. In the main plaza, now cleared of debris, Noah Winters was reunited with his parents. Ellie held her son tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered. "The Guardians kept us safe," Noah said. "And Dr. Parker." She knew exactly what to do. Daniel looked curious. "Who is Dr. Parker?" Noah explained about the human woman who had been living among the Zephyrians for decades. She said there are thousands like her throughout the Empire. They've been gathering information, learning the Empire's weaknesses. Ellie and Daniel exchanged a meaningful look. "That was the contingency plan put in place centuries ago," Daniel explained. "If any colony was discovered, selected individuals would allow themselves to be taken. They would integrate into Imperial society and prepare for the day when we might need to fight. You knew about this? Noah asked, surprised. We suspected, Ellie replied. The full plan was compartmentalized. No single person knew everything. That way, if the Empire captured one of us, they couldn't learn all our secrets. In the communications center, Linda Peters coordinated messages between New Haven and the other human colonies. After 3,000 years of minimal contact, humanity's various settlements were reconnecting, sharing information and resources. Jack entered, carrying a tray with 2 cups of coffee. Thought you could use this, he said, placing 1 cup beside her. Linda smiled gratefully. Thanks. It's been non-stop since the attack. She gestured to her screen. We're getting reports from colonies I never even knew existed. There's one group that's been living inside a gas giant's upper atmosphere. Can you imagine? Jack shook his head in wonder. All this time, we thought we were so few and scattered. Turns out we're stronger than we knew. At the Guardian Academy, now serving as a temporary hospital, Grace Phillips helped care for those who had been injured during the fighting. Most of the wounds were minor. The human defense had been so overwhelming that the Imperial forces had quickly surrendered, rather than face destruction. Commander Susan Harper entered, carrying a datapad. Grace, I have a new assignment for you. We're sending an ambassador to the Imperial capital. We need Guardians to serve as security. Grace looked up in surprise. Me? But I just graduated. Susan smiled. You proved yourself during the evacuation of the processing ship. You kept your head under pressure and protected the younger children. That's exactly what we need. In orbit above New Haven, Captain Alan Foster and Rebecca Martinez prepared the Whisper for a new mission. The ship's stealth systems were being recalibrated, but not to hide, to observe. Strange to think we won't need to hide anymore, Rebecca said as she checked the navigation systems. Alan nodded. 3,000 years of silence ended in a single day. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked. Revealing ourselves like this? We didn't have a choice, Alan replied. They took our children. He was quiet for a moment. But yes, I think it was time. We can't hide forever. On the partially rebuilt steps of the Guardian Academy, Ellie Winters addressed the people of New Haven. Thousands had gathered in the plaza below, with more watching via video feeds throughout the colony. For 3,000 years, we watched and waited, she said. We built our strength in silence because we knew this day might come. We prepared. We planned. We preserved what makes us human. She looked out at the faces turned toward her parents, reunited with their children, guardians standing tall and proud, colony defenders who had protected their homes. The Empire thought they were discovering us, she continued, but we were unveiling ourselves, on our terms, at our chosen moment. Noah stood with his parents, listening to his mother's words. Above them, the sky was filled with ships coming and going, human vessels, no longer hiding their true nature. We are no longer silent, Ellie concluded, and the galaxy will hear our voice. As night fell on New Haven, the stars seemed brighter. Somehow, among them, humanity moved freely for the first time in 3 millennia. The long silence was over. A new chapter had begun.